So I guess today's guest, really excited to introduce to introduce him to you listeners. And I think Abdul, I'd like to say welcome to the studio. It's not quite a studio, it's more of a virtual studio, but we'll roll with it. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and join us today.
Thank you, Luke 1 and Luke 10, for having me on your podcast. Look forward to the conversation. Let's get the show rolling.
Yes, come on. I love that. So Luke 10 is going to do his usual quick questions, and I'm wondering, as always, we never kind of know what he's plucked up inside his brain. But if you can do your best to kind of give the first answer that comes to your head and maybe a little bit of detail, but don't overthink it too much, because then you'll be like, what is this guy asking me? Because they are sometimes very bizarre.
Yeah. So just kind of going through a few of the quick fire questions. So the first one is, what's your name? Well, introduce yourself, name, occupation, experience, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Abdul. I'm a procurement specialist at a very famous exam organization. So just a quick overview in terms of what I do. So I provide support to the procurement team, ensuring all suppliers are vetted or onboarded, and also make sure that all the checks are in place when it comes to contracts, and get them executed all in a timely manner to make sure the business is kept, or the organization, shall I say, is kept assured and satisfied with all the various products and services we obtain to support with our operations, and ultimately deliver satisfaction and value for our customers, being in this case schools, the colleges, and even the students who partake the exams. So exam papers or the various assessments that the exam organisation provides. So
so how long have you been working in procurement for?
So it's been a few years. So it started out so as part of my kind of university degree, I spent a year working at don't know if I should mention the company or not, but I worked for a year, did an internship there within procurement. That was predominantly indirect spend. That was supporting all the products and services we get to support the kind of the medical equipment that would supply to the NHS and other private medical hospitals, so to speak.
Well, you did well to get that, because they're quite competitive, aren't they, those positions?
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, certainly for kind of your blue chip or corporate companies like Philips. That was quite a good experience, that one.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's a lot, and you even answered my follow-up question about the procurement internship. So that was good, expertly done. Got some more slightly quicker questions. So first one is Star Wars or Star Trek?
Neither really. But if I go by the ones I watched recently, I'd probably say the Star Trek. But that's only because in the recent films I saw, I thought it had the balance of the right comedy, and as well as what Star Trek's all about in terms of its storyline. Then Star Wars, I just can't get into that one. It just, to me, just seems like kids in costumes fighting each other with colourful light bulbs.
Controversial, that. I think
it's
because
get the listeners going.
Yeah, they'll be fuming. I think it's because we spent our whole lives hearing people say, "Luke, I am your father," which that's never going to seem to end. So
yeah. So next one is Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's a good one.
What was your first initial thought? What came to your mind straight away?
I think it was Bruce Lee, but I think it's because it's not just what he can do, but I think it's some of the philosophical kind of comments or thoughts he comes out with.
So, if you could only have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh man, where do I begin? I love eating anything and everything.
Well, it doesn't have to be food,
Okay.
but you wouldn't last very long.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. It'll probably be like some sort of curry. That's what comes to mind. Probably like first thing comes to my head. Chicken jalfrezi and rice.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
Good shout.
Yeah.
that's a
For
cracker for
breakfast.
9 a.m.
Yeah. Anytime. Yeah.
Yep. No fair. So, would you rather have robotic arms or robotic legs?
Probably robotic arms, on the basis that my legs are stronger than my arms.
There's a lot
There
you could
you
do with a robotic arm as well. Obviously, it comes with robotic hands, so
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
pretty
good with,
handy.
like lifting or
That's
or
it.
climbing or
Opening bottles and stuff.
there you go, multifunctional.
And then the last question is, what animal do you think would be best in procurement and why?
A human, because a human is part of the animal kingdom. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No,
I was
that's
about
kind
to
of
say, that's a
cheating a
cop-out.
bit. Yeah, that's a cop out.
So to give you some
Monkey,
inspiration,
or
but
like-
if I give you inspiration, you have to. You can't use the same animals. We've had elephant because you always know they're in the room.
Oh.
We've had snake because they're thick-skinned and can deal with quite a lot.
Yeah.
We've had cats. People think we're cute and fluffy, but actually we're quite lethal. What else have we had?
Was it
Spider?
Spider, yeah,
Yeah.
from John T.
Yeah, I don't think he was feeling the question and he just wanted to go with something outrageous.
I'd say maybe like a monkey or an ape or something, because I know they're good with cryptic stuff.
That's so you're saying an
Big
ape
brains.
could replace us?
Or
That's
monkey.
yeah.
I'm just
And I
going by
think-
the basis of what we've seen on documentaries of them doing, like in the labs, doing all sorts of tests and stuff. You think, oh, they could do certain tasks in theory anyway.
So I mean, look, if a chimpanzee was doing Luke 10's job, I don't think we'd notice a difference in quality.
Just the eye candy you would notice.
That's funny.
Don't know. I'm not sure what's hairier.
Uh,
As long as you send the chimp to the barbers, it'll be all right.
You go, I could take up my. Forget AI. Let's just get a chimp to do my job.
there you go, problem solved. On to the next.
Yeah, so that was all of the quick fire questions. Should we get into the main section?
Absolutely. So let me just go to my notes.
No, you're all right.
Brilliant. Okay, so thanks for that, Abdul. Let's dive into what I think is a very good starting point. So CIPS, CIPS. I'm assuming, by the way, that's not the exam company that you work for, before we open up and roast them a little bit.
No.
Okay, phew. So talk to us about your CIPS journey, because a lot of the listeners have kind of said to us, is CIPS worth it? Should we do it? Or is it just a bit of a money pit? So I'm interested to kind of see your thoughts, because just for the listeners' benefits, that's actually how Abdul and I met, was on a CIPS course, probably a few years back now, isn't it? So let's hear what you have to say, Abdul.
It was all right, I think. When I compare it with, my university study, where it was 4 exams in the winter, 4 in the summer, it was quite intense in that fashion. Whereas with CIPS, it was more spread out and there was more flexibility. I think with that suited kind of my style a lot more.
And
less intense.
how did you find the exam format? Because I obviously just kind of catch you talking about timings there, and I found it personally in the multiple choice exams that we had. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Yeah, thank you. So I personally found that we had enough time in the multiple choice exams. So quite often I could do like 45 minutes to answer all the questions, and then I'd have another 40 minutes or so to go back and do them, like read them all again. And some people would get up and leave sort of halfway through because they'd already done everything. And then
Did you
the
stay for
essay exams,
the full time on the multiple choice.
I did personally.
Wow. I did not. I definitely didn't do that. I answered them all, spent about 5 minutes going back and checking them, and then went down to the pub. No, probably did go to the pub, to be honest.
Yeah, with the multiple choice, I think usually for the most part, for most of the modules, I found it was sufficient time. I suppose it comes down to my tactic and approach. It was kind of like, well, because I've, did this study and allowed the time for it in the first place, and I was, prepared as much as I could be when it came to doing the actual exam. I was like, okay, I'm going to spend, X amount of time per question. So I'll, do question 1 or 2, 3, whatever, and if I can answer it, move on. And then I'd make sure I get all the way to the end. And then once I get to the end, because of my approach, I would have time anyway to do the questions that I couldn't do, and have a bit more time to focus on the ones I couldn't do. So I think with the multiple choice, it was naturally easier than doing the written ones, because the answer's there. You just have to find the right answer. Whereas the written ones, you're having to draw upon the knowledge you have, but also be able to articulate it whilst under time pressure.
Just for the listeners out there, Luke 10 is actually nodding along there with a little tear coming out of his eye, because recently he's had his essay result back, and I think he got some reality checks in there. Obviously he did pass, so congratulations.
Congrats, Luke.
Thank you. But the pass mark was 50% and I got 51%, so I'm happy with the, let's call it efficiency. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you kind of, I guess it's like an interview, isn't it? Sometimes you can go to an interview and think, oh, I absolutely smashed that, and just turns out you were either overconfident, and you can go to an interview or an exam and think, oh, I'm a little bit nervous, could be on the border there, and turns out you actually did really well. Even the multiple choices, actually, I guess it kind of comes down to your kind of confidence level. If you think, I guess multiple choice is process of elimination, right? And you kind of, if you're weighing up two, you think, oh, it could be that, or it could be that. That's when it becomes hard to know, because it's not kind of
in the other levels as well.
Yeah, I suppose in the written ones, if you make half a point and then either you don't go on to fully explain it, you might get half the marks for that section. Whereas in the multiple choice, if it's a toss up between two and you go with the wrong one, you get nothing, don't you? Even if you've kind of gone, you've done the right logic to rule out the first two, and then you've just picked the wrong one out of the third and fourth option. Yeah,
because I think you get those kind of questions where you eliminate the two, but the other two, they both are true, and you're having to figure out, okay, which one's more true or more relevant to the question than the other. And I've sometimes came across questions, I don't know if you guys came across them as well when you were doing the multiple choices, but there were a couple of questions where I thought, I don't remember this being in the textbook.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was like a throwaway thing that CIPS do to try and make sure that people humble themselves and not get 100% in the exams or something. I don't know.
I do agree with that, and I also found out, used to think they used to put like made up terms in, so they'd be like 4 answers and one of them would just be this absolute made up term that sounds kind of impressive, and you'd read it and you'd go, I've definitely not learned about that word in my textbook, but then you go, but it kind of looks like a nice little word, that, so I might back it, and it all starts to just play on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it sort of the opposite happens as well, where I've came across questions where you have 4 options, 3 of them are quite short and vague, but then you have this one really long detailed one and it sounds plausible, and you think, yes, I think it's this one based on what I know and what I see. So I don't know if, again, that CIPS.
The other thing I found as well, because obviously CIPS do, like, on their multiple choice, they do like a pool of questions, and then you get allocated like a number of those questions for that exam. And sometimes the questions you get, so like question 1 might be asking you about, I don't know, like market types, like, monopoly, what the characteristics of a monopoly market, and then a few questions down the line, you've got another question which is basically telling you the characteristics and then saying, guess what the market is, and you're like, oh, you can put 2 and 2 together, and that's 2 questions down in one go.
Yeah, it's about being smart and agile in that sense. Sometimes
Yeah.
the answers are within the exam paper itself.
Yeah.
So-
a few times.
I was going to do a smooth link. If
Well,
you're finished talking about CIPS.
Well, no, I'm
carry on
not.
CIPS
So
stuff. Okay, go on.
I had a really interesting question on this. I think you missed it because you were too busy coming back from the barbers. Abdul has bagged his level 4 and was paid by his previous employer, but having left them and got a new job, I don't know if his new job's willing to fund him or has funded him or what's going on. Hopefully he can share some insights, but hasn't progressed any further. So I'm kind of interested to hear what Abdul thinks about, I guess, finishing CIPS and whether doing level 4 on its own was worth it.
No, that's a good question. I think for the most part, I took a pause after level 4 and just kind of spend the time kind of crafting my knowledge and kind of experience further in the real world, but also just, things that happen in life as well and work, so it gets in the way. It is in the back of my mind to do level 5 at some point. So it's not definitely over, but equally, we'll just have to wait and see.
So do you feel that just doing level 4, or do you think that opened up any opportunities? Did it help you with your next job interview that you had?
I think it did help, because I noticed in a lot of the job ads they say something like, "Oh, we would like someone to be studying CIPS or have MCIPS," and I thought, oh, that would kind of open that gateway for those applications, and also it's also a good talking point for interviews. So, and it's an opportunity to kind of demonstrate, what you've done and your experience, and it's a conversational thing, and you can use it as a tactical thing as well in interview. So then it reduces the chances of the interviewers asking you other questions you may not be prepared for. So,
do you have people in your organisation that are more senior than you that don't have CIPS?
Yeah, most of them are. I think apart from one of them did CIPS whilst at that organisation. I suppose it just shows that it's not a mandatory requirement. It can be helpful. The requirement of CIPS, I think it's just down to oneself in terms of what they want to do, where they want to go.
Have you considered so you're at level 4 now, you've done level 4, have you considered the assignment route? Has that been publicised to you, or?
Yeah, something made me aware. It was something I was originally going to do part of my CIPS, but then again, just due to work and personal commitments, I just couldn't do it. But if that's what other people want to do, if they were going down that route, more than welcome to. And I can see, on the other side of the fence, how it can be beneficial, because it's like it adds a kind of another dimension to your personal professional profile and showing how you can apply your knowledge into something. And it's again something to talk about if you're applying to any sort of jobs or roles. So I think I think it can be a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
Luke 10 had to criticise his man. Oh, sorry, I'm doing it again. Go on.
No.
Go on, segue.
I was going to say that was a very smooth sort of setup to move to the next section. So Abdul's got the smooth podcasting. He's got the knack of it quicker than you have. So we'll move to the next section that we'll move smoothly onto was what you've learnt in procurement that you can apply in general life. There's a couple of things you said throughout talking about CIPS. So what do you think are the biggest kind of parallels, and what have you benefited from that you can apply to real life?
Yeah, so if you're talking about real life in terms of outside of work, I think there's many examples. The couple I can think of would be firstly around if you're doing a grocery shop for the household. So where I'm coming at is, you'll have your shopping list. You're going to prioritize what your needs and wants are. you got a budget, but equally you want to leverage your purchasing power. So make use of the vouchers and the points that you have. So if you're talking about Sainsbury's, Nectar points, Tesco, you Club Card points. I think that's one application of it.
Do you get 3 quotes for all your shopping, or do you?
No, I just use the one that's the supermarket's near me. But you've actually allowed me to segue onto the other example I was going to give around the RFQs. So I kind of do that exercise, very light touch, of course, when it comes to things like if I'm trying to get an MOT service on my car, or if, say, someone wanted to do an event planning, there's a lot of things you need to acquire to make the party or wedding or whatever occasion it is successful and worthwhile and enjoyable. So I think there's applications in the real world, and I think if we as a procurement community use these analogies and examples to those that are not familiar with procurement as a practice, I think it'll help them get interested in talking about it, and it's a more positive light rather than having to use things in the media where things have gone wrong, like was it when the boat got stuck in the Suez Canal, or there's supply chain issues. It brings procurement to light, but it does paint a kind of a negative picture as well, and that it seems like it's those kind of moments where people only remember procurement. But what about talking about the positive things, or light-hearted stuff? So I think again that can only raise procurement profile further.
But I want to throw this out to you then. So you gave a little example there of your shops, and you go to the one that's closest to you. Let's say you're running a tender at work.
Yeah.
Do you just go to the supplier who's across the road because they're conveniently placed?
No, I would look at. I would research to see who else is out there. What I do at work is different.
No, it's funny.
Yeah.
The reason I kind of set you up a little bit there is because in a previous episode we had an everyday Dave, so someone who's not familiar with procurement, onto the show, and we kind of taught them through the process of procuring a gym membership. And price was the last thing that came to her mind, despite the fact she wanted, sauna, jacuzzi, every single piece of brand new gym equipment, and it had to be round the corner from our house, etc. So it is just funny that I think the principles we learn in our role as a procurement person, so just doing a bit of due diligence as opposed to just going for what's convenient, is probably not what we do in our actual everyday lives. And if we were a bit more procurement in our everyday lives, we would probably make better decisions on certain things.
I'd agree with that, and I think one thing that I feel like I experience is sort of like, what's the phrase about, like, builders have poorly built houses and dentists have bad teeth, because they're doing that all day at work, and then when they get home they don't want to do that. So I think, I would agree with that and say I'm quite bad at, if someone says, oh, it's this much for that, your car's going to cost $2,000 to repair. Oh, all right, take my money, because I can't be asked to negotiate. Whereas I really should. I should definitely negotiate. So maybe I need to call you up, Abdul, and say, can you get me some discount on some savings on my car repairs?
Sure, I'll invoice you for my services.
Consultancy. Yeah.
But I think where you highlight is the fact that, and I think it's not just in procurement, but I think it's in life general, where maybe we're all, to varying degrees, don't quite practice what we do or preach at work versus at home. But then I think there's always going to be a level of discrepancy in that aspect, because what you do in your personal life is going to be different to what you do at work anyway. Like, if you're in a personal life, are you really going to be doing, data protection checks to the nth degree, for example?
You probably should, but you don't. That's the reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think you really read the full terms of software that you're signing up to.
No, I just want to get my download done ASAP.
Yeah.
No comment.
And I think the only one I would say that I think most people naturally do a bit of procurement on without realizing is probably petrol. And I'm not sure what it is about petrol prices and us humans, but we are so like set on just getting the cheapest petrol possible. Like, i.e. driving an extra 25 minutes out of our way to get to a pump that we know is probably 10p cheaper. And I will do that passionately. Like, I do not care. Like, you know, if I'm going to see my dad up slightly up north from me, I know the petrol's cheaper up there, so I will make sure that my car down here is going to last until I get to that petrol pump.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because if you actually sat and properly worked it out, you probably spend the amount of money you'd save by driving to another one. But yeah, is it because the prices are displayed in massive signs on the way through, so you can, you know, it's very easy to just go, oh, that petrol on the side of the motorway was 185, or, you know, crazy price. I'm not going there.
You see one guy paying 185 and you think, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think it touches upon two aspects. It's about how you think in terms of cost from an pure traditional accounting sense versus the economic thinking. So you look at, you know, time and convenience and other aspects aside from monetary cost. The way I look at it is, you know, I value my time more than money, so I'll just get the petrol that's nearest. Although having said that, I do to some degree avoid some of the suppliers that charge a premium, like your Shells and BPs, and stick with supermarkets. But, you know, I'm not one of those people that says, oh, I'm at Sainsbury's, oh, the price is too pricey, I'm gonna go drive for the next 30 minutes 60 minutes to the next supermarket or whatever just to save 5p, because again, what
are you a Costco member?
Costco? No.
Yeah. See, I think you might, if you had a Costco nearby and you were a member, I think that would change your perception a little bit, because they've got a little inside gig where they just go, I think they actually shave off something daft like 15p a litre or something incredible like that, and it's enough to make you go, I will drive that a little bit further, I think, personally.
Oh, right.
Is that what they call loss leaders? Which I believe, and might have to research this to make sure it's right after, but it's when something is sold at a lower cost to draw you in. So, you know, you know that the petrol at Costco is always cheap, so you go there to buy the petrol and you think, oh, I'm here, might as well buy, you know, something else which is priced at a normal price, and then you end up giving them more money and probably paying back more than what you would for the discount that you're getting on the petrol.
I think you may be right there, Luke, because companies, not just like Costco, when they have like a whole plethora of services they provide, they know that they'll make a loss in one, but they'll compensate the loss through, you know, the revenue streams from other services and other activities that those businesses, including Costco, do. So actually, yeah, I think you're kind of right in that aspect. But I think but it tends to be certainly the big organizations that can absorb the cost anyway. So it's kind of not a surprise when you see someone like Costco that's like a huge brand. Certainly in the UK, I don't know how big they are globally. I think they might be big globally. I might be wrong, but certainly in the UK, they're big brands. So
yeah, and we've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's good, and I think it sort of answers our next section as well. Another smooth transition. So we've obviously been talking about kind of real life examples or general life examples, and it's made me think maybe one of the ways to get more people interested in procurement would be to kind of explain how procurement concepts can work in the real world, such as like bulk buying, or maybe even the psychology that businesses use to get you to spend more, like, you know, Tesco club card discounts and stuff. If it's, you know, normal price for a pack of cheese is £3, or you can pay on club card, you can pay £5 for 2 packs of cheese, you're going to think, oh great, I'm getting a saving if I buy more, but actually you're spending more overall, aren't you? So have you got any other thoughts about how you could get kind of people that aren't procurement people necessarily more interested in the subject?
Yeah, in terms of procurement, I think you have to start with introducing the education of it from early on. So perhaps seeing, education as a topic or subject that's taught in schools and colleges and universities, although there are degrees in universities, but in terms of secondary schools, see it as a topic or subject, and actually have pathways into procurement post school. See more of that for sure, because then that will build the profile of procurement, and then from a generation to generation perspective, it would pass on, and it will help to bring people in the years to come into that profession and get that level of recognition and respect it truly deserves, in a similar vein to the finance and the sales and the marketing. I think it's key to make sure that with companies they factor in their kind of recruitment campaigns and approaches to bring in people from different backgrounds and kind of foster an ethos where people can express themselves and not be all vanilla. I think we're starting to see that in some respects. We see it in LinkedIn, and we see it probably in other media formats, but certainly LinkedIn, we're starting to see that. You got the likes of Tom Mills and a few others kind of waving the flag, speaking their mind about various matters. So that's good to see, because procurement traditionally has been painted as something grey, old, boring. But yeah, I think you need that education piece to happen early on, get youth assimilating into that, and then in time procurement will be on the same pedestal as the other areas that I mentioned, so within a business.
Yeah, so it almost seems like obviously I didn't know anything about procurement before having a job in procurement, but it does seem something.
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
It seems like something that would be a good life skill to have. We buy things all the time, even at that sort of low level. It doesn't have to be strategic purchasing and supply chain strategy, but at the kind of purely purchasing level, how can I get the most out of the money I have? Especially with the cost of living nowadays, it's a very good point. Something that people need to be aware of. So, I mean, we've been talking for about 40 minutes. It's flown by.
I didn't realise.
Do you have any? Yeah, I know. Do you have any things that you wanted to say as kind of closing points?
No, I'd just like to say, thank you both of you for giving up your time and giving me the time and opportunity, for this kind of conversation and talk about all things procurement and outside of, including the tangents and the smooth transitions, of course. And I think I do like what you guys are doing here and having a podcast in this somewhat niche area in terms of getting listeners that are maybe not so old, maybe in the younger age of the spectrum, get them to listening. Gracefully said. Get interested about procurement. So
you're right. And thank you, mate. That's really good to hear, actually. And obviously, we've loved having you on, and our listeners will let us know if you've loved having Abdul on. Obviously, if you don't want him back, let us know. But if you do want him back, also let us know, and we'll get him back for a second episode.
Amazing. Well, yeah, it's kind of like we set you up to say that, but yeah, I appreciate your comments. And I've loved having you on.
Yeah, thank you. Really enjoyed it, and likewise, it was good speaking to you both. And keep carrying on what you guys are doing with the podcast and in your jobs and whatever's going on in your life. So,
thank you, Abdul, and keep in touch. It's been a pleasure.